Diane didn't end her friendship with BoJack because BoJack was toxic. She ended her friendship with BoJack because staying in that friendship was costing her who she was. And if you've ever overstayed in a friendship, you will understand what she felt.
Hey, I know that you can tweet for a living in a house in Beverly Hills that your husband bought, or you can think you're better than everyone, but you can't do both.
I don't think I'm better than everyone.
And again, I say, sure.
Once you start looking at their arguments, you realize that there's a lot of BoJack crossing the line with Diane, and you see that there's a lot of times where Diane will extend a hand of friendship or sympathy or just something that BoJack needs, and in return, he just refuses to grow.
I don't care, because I'm trying to move forward.
You haven't changed at all.
Yes, congratulations. You are the last person to get that. I'm not gonna change. I don't need your help for changing, so you can stop trying to make me your project.
That's not...
A key cornerstone of friendship is when you're vulnerable with someone, when you share something about yourself that you trust the other person with. And the only job for that person to do with that information is to not throw it back in your face. There are two examples that really come to mind when BoJack was vulnerable with Diane and what she did with that information, and when Diane was vulnerable with BoJack and what he did with that information.
Diane, I need you to tell me that it's not too late.
BoJack,
I need you to tell me that I'm a good person. I know that I can be selfish and narcissistic and self-destructive, but underneath all that, deep down, I'm a good person, and I need you to tell me that I'm good. Diane, tell me, please, Diane, tell me that I'm good.
BoJack expressed to Diane that he needed someone to tell him that he was good. Actually, not only that he needed someone to tell him that he was good, that he needed her to tell him. He showed up and he said, you have to tell me that I'm good. I need it. I need you to say it. I need you to believe it. You have to tell me that I'm good. So when BoJack and Diane had a horrible argument where it was the lowest of the low between them, one of the worst arguments between them, she had the opportunity to throw it back in his face and say, see, you're not good. You've never been good. This is not, you are just nothing. Instead, she swallowed her pride and said, even though you're being horrible right now, I'll still give you what you need. I'll still tell you that you're good. So you know, so you don't fracture and break over here.
I think you want me to tell you that you can be better. And even though you are being a total asshole right now, I still believe it. But if all you've gotten out of this friendship is the idea that you should be okay with yourself as you are, then I don't think this is a good relationship for either of us.
But when Diane was vulnerable to BoJack, saying, I came to this town hoping that I would be writing something important, something that meant something to me.
When I first moved to LA, I thought I was gonna be doing really important work, you know, just writing stuff that makes a difference. Then you gotta fall into one thing and then another.
When he felt attacked by her, he just threw it back in her face, saying, no, you're not a good writer. You used to be someone totally different, but now I don't even recognize you. He really pushed on that trigger point.
When I met you, you were so cool and interesting.
I was never cool.
You used to actually care about shit. What happened?
I don't know, BoJack. Maybe caring about shit got old. Maybe I'm tired of everyone yelling at me and sending death threats to my house and all my friends thinking I'm annoying and getting in fights with my husband and seeing little refugee boys die in hospital bombings.
When you have a friendship as long as Diane and BoJack, there are a lot of good moments in it, and sometimes that's hard because there are good moments in friendships and you don't want to just label it as this is toxic, this is whatever. There's more depth involved than just saying it's very easy to label things like it.
And even if I did get better, the best I could ever be is still just some other version of me.
BoJack, I can't wait for you to be better. I need you in my life.
Really?
You're the biggest asshole I know, and you're the only thing that makes sense to me.
He was so obsessed with Diane's impression of him that he wanted to control the narrative. He wanted to control the narrative that she had of him at all times. And I think that's what was causing the biggest strain in their friendship. Because you can't control the narrative that people have in their heads.
I really wanted you to like me, Diane.
I know.
And this resulted in when Diane would go up to BoJack genuinely and say, hey, even if something's good happened to you or something's bad happened to you, I know you as a person, I know how you must be feeling. He would always take it as an attack. He would never be able to just open up and be himself around her. He had to take everything she said in a negative light, because he's just assuming that she's thinking the worst in most moments.
Why are you bringing this shit up? Is this fun for you? To really rub in?
It's not fun.
You win. You scored all the points in the argument. According to facts, you are right and I am wrong, like always.
And I think that's one of those trademarks of, if you're in a long-term friendship, your friends shouldn't be thinking the worst of you. Your friends should be giving you the benefit of the doubt. But no, he felt like he wished that everything he did, he just wished that she would just idolize him, honestly. The problem with him thinking so negatively, like thinking that everything that she said was so negative, the real problem with that was that he would then cross a line. He would then double down, and because he's taking her as attacking him, so he goes on the defensive and he starts attacking her. But he attacks her in a way that is just far too much for what the actual conversation is, where he will go after her job, how she acts, where her money comes from, what she, saying that, oh, you've changed, putting her in a box, saying, I don't like the new you, essentially, which is quite bad considering the fact that people are always going to grow. And I think BoJack specifically finds this very offensive, because he sees any signs of Diane growing as a sign of Diane outgrowing him. He's sort of actually running towards the worst possible outcome that he is trying to avoid at all costs, because Diane growing essentially means that, well, he takes it as, oh, you think you're better than me, and we know that because he deflects onto her, and we know that because he projects onto her and he says, you think you're better than everyone else, you think you're a certain type of way, you think you're whatever. And she's just caught immediately off guard by him saying all of these things. She went in to check in on her friend, and it resulted in her friend essentially chasing her out of his house, insulting her every step of the way as well. BoJack would do this thing, but he would make abstract claims. So he made a claim that Diane fetishizes her own sadness.
I don't know why it's so hard for you to believe that I could be happy.
I'm not like you, okay? I don't fetishize my own sadness.
I don't fetishize my own sadness.
Sure.
You don't know anything about me.
Hey!
And it is really abstract, because what do you mean by that? To say something like that and say this is the core of your personality, this is who you are, this is how you act, this is how you always act, and then it's a way for him to firstly one-up her. So he's trying to bring her down, and he's saying, well, you fetishize your sadness, I'm not like that, therefore I'm better than you. And she's sort of, and it's one of those things where if you're close to someone, they shouldn't say things like that to you. There's nothing productive about that dialogue, and it's just too vague, it's too abstract, it's too absolute. It leaves no room for change, it leaves no room for growth. It says fundamentally you are someone who is a certain type of way. And what makes it extra difficult is that there have been times where Diane has opened up about her depression to BoJack as well. And in those conversations, you actually see BoJack not being super caring towards her in the same way Diane is caring towards him.
Why can't I be happy? Am I busted?
No.
I am. I'm a pit. that good things fall into.
Diane, you're not a pit.
I'm a pit.
In fact, when Diane says to him, I'm perfectly fine, all good, all great, he's skeptical, almost as if he's not happy hearing that she isn't well. And when he finally finds out that she's not doing well, he somehow turns the conversation about her depression into a conversation about himself.
You doing okay?
I'm doing great. I have this wonderful boyfriend. I got an advance on a book of personal essays.
But the headline is you're doing great?
So great. I think I'm depressed.
Yeah? The reason I came to Chicago is I wanted to thank you for believing in me when I didn't, and for encouraging me to accept the help I needed.
On the surface, it seems like they're saying something nice for you and to really dig you out of it. In that context, I don't feel that way. I feel like BoJack was happy to see her a certain way because that's the state he can recognize her in. He doesn't recognize her when she's growing. There are many times that Diane has left conversations with BoJack feeling horrible about herself. Because he's actually, every step along the way, when she's leaving, he wants to say some of the most vile things to her so that she does feel bad about herself. The goal is to make someone doubt themselves. The goal is to sort of bring someone down. Whether he's doing it consciously or unconsciously, I don't actually think he's doing it super consciously. Because there is, after a big heated discussion, when he does feel like he's pushed her really far, he does say, well, no, come on, this is just how we are, we just say things to each other, we have that elasticity between ourselves. But he recognizes that it's not going to be the case forever.
And come on.
I'm going home.
No, Diane, we're saying things, but let's just go back to the party.
I'm done with all of this.
When Diane does try to have productive dialogues with him, he uses very minimizing language, saying, oh, maybe I did something, one little thing. You want to just hear about everything?
You know about the one little thing that I did in New Mexico, which, by the way, wasn't even really a thing?
You know what? Spare me.
No, I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you whatever you want. And while I'm at it, you want to hear about what happened at the MTV Beach House? Or why I'm not allowed to fly United anymore? Or what happened with Sharona, the makeup lady, on Horsing Around?
What?
Turns the table really quickly to make it seem like she's the aggressive person and that she's after him, that she's constantly forcing this narrative that he needs to change, and that she is basically the perpetrator of all the problems in their relationship. And this victim narrative that BoJack goes on is really interesting because it's not how a friend should view you. A friend should view you as a confidant, and a friend should view you as someone to trust and someone who cares about you. That your friends should be seeing the best in you the same way you see the best in them. But for BoJack really is pushing the narrative that he's not only that he's the victim in most circumstances, but also pushing the narrative that Diane is the bad guy, that Diane is the one forcing change, that Diane is the person who is obsessed with making BoJack one of her projects. That's what he says. You're trying to make me one of your projects, and you win this argument between us, saying that, you win. You just want to say I'm a terrible person. You just want examples to prove that I'm a terrible person. Almost then implying you're a terrible person for doing something like that, when I don't think that's what she's doing. And she even calls it out in real time, saying, I know you don't think that's what I'm doing. So what is happening over here? Diane didn't want to end her friendship with BoJack, but it really push came to shove. She had to end her friendship with BoJack because it really was getting too much for her. And on the other side of things, I think it was also getting way too much for him as well. And there's a whole, we can really go deep dive into the psychology of BoJack and why he does what he does. But BoJack is notorious for having self-sabotaging traits, that he can't really let anyone get too close to him. That when you do get too close to him, it does hit home because he doesn't feel like he's a good person who deserves good things, and he just keeps projecting it out, so that even if you do have someone in your life that cares a lot about you, you can't hold on to that person. And the only way he can hold on to that person is if he chooses to grow up a little bit. But it's not that easy for him, and no one can blame Diane for having to sit and wait around till he figures his life out, because friendship is a two-way street. and he needs to give to her the same way she needs to give to him, and he wasn't filling her cup. So this is why in the final scene of BoJack Horseman, when she finally does find herself, when she finally goes on antidepressants, when she finally feels like the more full version of herself, you see a dialogue between them where he says, yeah, well, life's just like that, you know, there's nothing great and then you die, sort of. Life's not great and that's just what life is. You see her actually looking at the positive side of things. Like, yeah, life might not be great, but it's not always that bad.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do? Life's a bitch and then you die, right?
Sometimes. Sometimes life's a bitch and then you keep living.
Yeah.
But it's a nice night, huh?
You know, you can see that slight shift. And the most important thing is the show ended with them not really having a dialogue with each other. Because at some point, you have to realize that you can't keep having dialogues. Eventually, you just have to give up on the dialogues. You just need to let things run its course. And that's what she did. She wished him well. She didn't think anything bad. She still sat there with him. But the whole point of the conversation was there's nothing left to say. You know, it's open-ended. Maybe you'll change, maybe you won't change. But I need to remove myself from this situation because you changing has nothing to do with me. I need to focus on myself. And that's all she did. And she did take some backlash for it online. But it's what she did, and you can't blame her for choosing that path. Again, their friendship is deep and vast. It was left open-ended. It didn't end with her... Their friendship didn't end with her saying, I'm ending my friendship with you. It's left open to interpretation to the audience, but we understand why. You understood that it was the end when it was the end. You understood that she was not going to allow him to fall back on her again as she did for so many seasons. And there's a really nice song that plays when they're not talking, which is just at the end of the show, and there's a song that plays, and that song, when you listen to the lyrics, are actually what she wants to say to him, but she refrains from saying it to him because that's not her role anymore. But you can see from those lyrics she's still wishing him well.
I have to go now, darling, don't be angry. So I'll leave you with a smile, kiss you on the cheek, and you will call it treason.
If you have a draining friendship that sometimes feels toxic, maybe just take what resonates from Diane's story with BoJack. Sometimes taking a step back is one of the best things you can do for yourself and the other person. And sometimes it's okay if things just fizzle out. As a disclaimer, there were a lot of nuances in their relationships. They had a very long-term friendships. There were many times BoJack was there for her. There were many times she was there for BoJack. Which is just what friendship is. You know, we're not keeping tallies of things. Sometimes people can hurt you. You can choose different things. You don't owe anyone anything inherently. It was a complicated friendship. It was a long friendship, and it made sense in the end why she chose herself. But for now, let's just play something to lighten the mood.
Don't do anything.
Yes! Well, seal's broken. Might as well enjoy myself.
It's all good in the great all around the world. No sweat, what they say in the USA.
Cheers to bath time.